I'm the most annoying guy on set because I'm saying, excuse me, you do realize that this should be happening and they wouldn't do that, and you haven't read this, that means this would be impossible. And everyone's just going, Henry, just shut up and do the thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do the thing because he wouldn't do it this way, and he can do this.
What's this? Oh, I saw this. Henry Cavill says he's not a fan of sex scenes in film and television and believes that they're mostly a bit of a cop-out. Fucking true. Absolutely true.
It's when you have a sense that you're going, is this really necessary? Or is it people just with less clothing on?
Right.
Yeah. And that's where you start to get more uncomfortable and you're thinking, there's not a performance here. TV show or a movie is just filled with sort of gyrating bodies, and you're going, okay,
right.
But I mean, what is this doing for us apart from the idea of like, oh, naked person, great.
Yeah. Were you familiar with this, the Watcher before you, The Witcher?
The Witcher,
before you started?
I hadn't seen the TV show, and I hadn't read the book.
And it was not even a year ago where Henry very publicly said that he is committed to doing the planned 7 seasons of the Netflix Witcher on one condition. That condition being that the writers can manage to tell great stories while honoring the source material this show is apparently meant to be based on. Now,
oh, okay, well that actually does fucking indicate something, doesn't it? Let's read this again. Absolutely, he says, and this is a quote, as long as we can keep telling great stories which honor Sapkowski's work. So I wonder what the odds are that a Netflix series isn't going to honor the original content of which the series is built off.
Henry Cavill has always been more than just another Hollywood star. To fans of The Witcher, he wasn't simply an actor hired to play Geralt of Rivia. He was a fan who carried the heart and soul of the story into every scene. His departure after season 3 shocked the world, but what followed was even worse. Netflix thought they could replace him, thought they could push the show forward without its anchor. Then the season 4 trailer dropped and the backlash was immediate. Dislikes poured in, comment sections turned into war zones, and fan edits mocking the new direction spread faster than the official marketing itself. What was supposed to be a moment of triumph turned into one of Netflix's most embarrassing disasters. And according to insiders, Henry Cavill himself decided enough was enough. He went straight to the top and confronted Netflix's CEO, calling them out for destroying the franchise he had fought to protect. Henry Cavill has always been more than just another Hollywood star. To fans of The Witcher, he wasn't simply an actor hired to play Geralt of Rivia. He was a fan who carried the heart and soul of the story into every scene. His departure after season 3 shocked the world, but what followed was even worse. Netflix thought they could replace him, thought they could push the show forward without its anchor. Then the season 4 trailer dropped and the backlash was immediate. Dislikes poured in, comment sections turned into war zones, and fan edits mocking the new direction spread faster than the official marketing itself. What was supposed to be a moment of triumph turned into one of Netflix's most embarrassing disasters. And according to insiders, Henry Cavill himself decided enough was enough. He went straight to the top and confronted Netflix's CEO, calling them out for destroying the franchise he had fought to protect. The confrontation, as described by sources close to the situation, wasn't polite small talk. It was Henry letting years of frustration boil over. He had warned them repeatedly during production that the writing was straying too far from Sapkowski's novels, that Geralt was being flattened into a cliché, that the tone was losing the grit and melancholy that defined the world of the continent. Yet time and again, his concerns were brushed aside. Netflix's priority was clear: mass appeal, quick wins, flashy visuals. And now, the fallout was undeniable. The trailer bombed, fans revolted, and Henry, the one man who had predicted this outcome, decided to hold Netflix accountable. The CEO reportedly tried to spin the numbers, pointing out that the trailer still racked up millions of views in just days. But Henry wasn't impressed. Views, he argued, don't matter if the audience is laughing at you instead of with you. He pointed to the catastrophic like-to-dislike ratio, the trending hashtags demanding his return, and the petitions calling for season 4 to be canceled altogether. He allegedly told Netflix leadership that they had turned one of the most beloved fantasy franchises into a punchline, and that their arrogance in ignoring the fans was to blame. Fans have always seen Cavill as a protector of The Witcher's legacy. He wasn't just Geralt on screen, he was Geralt off screen too, defending the lore in production meetings, correcting lines that clashed with canon, and fighting for authenticity at every turn. The CEO's decisions, however, undermined all of that. Writers openly mocked the source material in interviews. Creative directions leaned toward Hollywood gloss instead of dark fantasy grit. And with each compromise, Cavill grew more frustrated. This wasn't the Witcher he loved, it was a corporate product dressed in Witcher's armor. The trailer's failure proved what Henry had been saying all along. You can't fake passion. Behind the scenes, insiders say Cavill's words hit hard. He didn't yell or throw insults, he didn't need to. The numbers were his weapon. He cited the collapse in fan engagement, the negative press from mainstream outlets, and the simple fact that fans were making their own tribute videos to his Geralt that outperformed Netflix's official marketing. That's what authenticity looks like, he allegedly told the CEO. You can't buy it, and you can't replace it. The message was clear. Netflix had tried to cut out the heart of the franchise, and now they were paying the price. The CEO, caught off guard, reportedly tried to pivot the blame, suggesting that the fan outrage was inevitable no matter who replaced Cavill. But Henry wasn't having it. He reminded them that fans had begged Netflix to stay true to the books, that they had spent years telling the studio what they wanted, and that instead of listening, Netflix doubled down on its own vision. The trailer wasn't just disliked, it was rejected, and no amount of marketing spin could change the fact that the world saw through it. The fallout from the confrontation began spreading through Hollywood almost immediately. Word leaked that Cavill had gone directly to the top, and fans rallied behind him even harder. Social media exploded with praise, calling him the real White Wolf, not just for how he played Geralt, but for how he defended the story off camera. Articles ran headlines like, Cavill confronts Netflix over Witcher collapse, and industry insiders began openly questioning Netflix's leadership. It wasn't just a bad trailer anymore, it was a full-blown crisis of confidence in the streaming giant's ability to handle its biggest franchises. Meanwhile, Cavill's career trajectory made the confrontation even more damning. As Netflix scrambled to contain the damage, Henry was thriving. His Warhammer 40K project was gaining steam, hailed as a passion project led by someone who actually cared about the material. Fans began drawing direct comparisons. On one side, a soulless Season 4 trailer mocked across the internet. On the other, Cavill building something authentic, respected, and loved. It became a cultural split. Netflix's loss was Warhammer's gain, and the more Cavill shined elsewhere, the worse Netflix's decision looked. What made the confrontation historic, though, was that it represented more than just one actor versus one studio. It became a symbol of the growing divide between fans and corporations. Audiences are no longer content to accept watered-down versions of the stories they love. They want respect for the lore, respect for the characters, and respect for the passion that brought these franchises to life in the first place. Cavill's decision to call out the CEO wasn't just about himself, it was about drawing a line in the sand. He became the voice of millions of fans who felt betrayed. As the weeks passed, the backlash only grew. Netflix turned off comments on regional uploads of the trailer. They tried to distract viewers with behind-the-scenes featurettes and interviews praising Liam Hemsworth's fresh take. But none of it worked. Fans flooded every post with Cavill's images, every thread with his quotes, every meme with comparisons that made the new Geralt look like a cheap imitation. And in every conversation, Cavill's confrontation with the CEO loomed like a shadow. Proof that even inside Netflix, there were voices saying the same thing fans had been screaming for years. By the time industry analysts weighed in, it was clear that The Witcher Season 4 was doomed before it even premiered. Forecasts predicted record low engagement compared to previous seasons. Merchandise sales had stalled, subscriber buzz had cratered, and all of it traced back to the decision to let Cavill walk and ignore his warnings. The CEO may have tried to argue otherwise, but Cavill's confrontation left no doubt. Netflix had failed to respect the very foundation of their franchise. Henry Cavill didn't need to return to win. He didn't need to scream or fight publicly. His legacy as Geralt was already untouchable. What he did instead was even more powerful. He stood his ground, called out the leadership directly, and reminded the world what passion and integrity look like. For fans, it confirmed everything they already believed. Henry Cavill was the heart of The Witcher, and Netflix lost that heart the moment they stopped listening. And so, as Season 4's release date creeps closer, the irony is impossible to ignore. Netflix can spend millions on marketing, release endless clips, and push Liam Hemsworth as the new face of the franchise, but none of it matters. The shadow of Henry Cavill and his confrontation with the CEO hangs over everything. For the fans, The Witcher without Henry Cavill isn't just incomplete, it's hollow. And thanks to Cavill's refusal to stay silent, everyone knows exactly why. Because in the end, this wasn't just about one actor leaving a show. It was about standing up to a corporation that thought it could erase the soul of a story and get away with it. Henry Cavill proved them wrong. And now, Netflix's Witcher will forever be remembered not for its success, but for the moment its own star went off on the CEO and told them the truth they refused to hear. Without authenticity, without respect, there is no franchise. The ripple effects of Henry Cavill's confrontation with Netflix leadership did not stay contained within the walls of the boardroom. The entertainment press latched onto the story almost immediately, and what began as quiet whispers from insiders quickly grew into headlines across major outlets. Publications described the confrontation as a turning point for the franchise and a moment of reckoning for Netflix. Critics who had once defended the streamer's risk-taking began openly questioning whether the company's executives had lost their touch with audiences. The Witcher, once hailed as Netflix's answer to prestige fantasy, was now at the center of a public relations nightmare. But what shocked analysts most was the way the backlash spread beyond The Witcher itself. Other Netflix shows suddenly found their comment sections flooded with references to Cavill, Geralt, and the betrayal of the fans. People were canceling their subscriptions not just out of anger at the Witcher recast, but as a protest against what they saw as a broader pattern: the disregard for story, lore, and audience trust. Social media campaigns formed around slogans like "respect the source." What could have been dismissed as isolated fan anger became a movement, and Henry's willingness to go off on the CEO added legitimacy. Fans weren't just emotional, they were right. Inside Hollywood, the situation became a cautionary tale. Writers and producers on other fantasy franchises began privately discussing how to avoid the Witcher trap. In meetings, executives started hearing Cavill's name brought up as a shorthand for respecting source material. Do we want another Cavill situation on our hands? The story of one actor walking away over creative differences had snowballed into a warning for the entire industry. Netflix's mishandling of the situation was no longer just a blemish on their record, it was a case study in how quickly loyalty can evaporate when fans feel betrayed. Meanwhile, Cavill himself became more of a folk hero than ever. Clips from his past interviews surged across YouTube and TikTok, with millions of views racking up in days. Fans replayed his comments about loving the lore, about insisting Geralt would never act against the books, about staying faithful no matter what. Every quote became a rallying cry, proof that he had always been fighting for the right thing. The fact that he went so far as to confront the Netflix CEO cemented the narrative. Cavill wasn't just Geralt on screen, he was Geralt in spirit. The White Wolf had stood up to the kings of the streaming world, and fans were behind him every step of the way. The financial implications began to worry Netflix's investors as well. Analysts reported that the Witcher backlash coincided with noticeable dips in subscriber retention numbers in certain markets. While it's difficult to quantify exactly how much of that was tied to Cavill's exit, the optics were disastrous. Wall Street doesn't like uncertainty, and when one of Netflix's top global franchises becomes synonymous with failure, questions about long-term stability follow. Cavill's confrontation, which leaked into the public sphere, only magnified those concerns. This wasn't a quiet creative disagreement, it was a cultural spectacle. Adding to Netflix's woes, competing studios began to subtly capitalize on the disaster. HBO executives leaked tidbits about how seriously they took fan input for House of the Dragon. Amazon reminded viewers of its billion-dollar commitment to Tolkien's world. Even smaller platforms chimed in, emphasizing their respect for creative fidelity. Every competitor positioned themselves as the anti-Netflix when it came to handling beloved franchises. And in nearly every comparison, Cavill's confrontation was cited as Exhibit A of how not to handle talent and fan expectations. For Henry Cavill, the timing couldn't have been better. As Netflix struggled to contain the backlash, his Warhammer 40K project gained even more attention. Industry blogs reported that studios were offering him increased creative control because they saw the power of his authenticity. His name became synonymous with integrity, and producers understood that attaching Cavill to a project wasn't just about getting a star, it was about bringing along a fiercely loyal fan base. In contrast, Liam Hemsworth's association with The Witcher seemed to do the opposite, saddling him with the image of a corporate stand-in. The confrontation also sparked debate among actors. Some applauded Cavill for daring to call out leadership at such a high level, saying it was rare for stars to risk burning bridges with executives of that stature. Others admitted they wished they had done the same in their own careers instead of staying silent while studios dismantled the projects they loved. Cavill's move gave them cover, a precedent to point to the next time they wanted to demand respect for the material they were working on. It was no longer seen as difficult to fight for the story, it was seen as heroic. As the release date of season 4 drew closer, Netflix's silence became louder than any official statement. They avoided answering questions about Cavill in interviews, deflected whenever the recast was brought up, and poured money into marketing campaigns that highlighted monsters and landscapes rather than Geralt himself. But the fans saw through it. Every attempt to shift attention away from the controversy only reminded people of what had been lost. Cavill's confrontation with the CEO became a permanent part of the discourse, an unshakable reminder that the most important voice in the room had been ignored. And that's the heart of the story. Henry Cavill didn't just go off on the CEO because a trailer bombed. He did it because the trailer symbolized everything he had warned them about: the soullessness, the disregard for fans, the prioritization of algorithms over artistry. His decision to speak out at the highest level transformed a personal frustration into a global conversation about respect, loyalty, and the future of storytelling. Netflix may try to bury the story, but the damage is already done. For millions of fans, Henry Cavill will always be the true Geralt of Rivia. And his battle with Netflix's leadership will forever be remembered as the moment the White Wolf fought his greatest foe, corporate arrogance.